Hello and welcome. In this video, we'll be looking at two possible methods to help manage large and complex models when using Vcad in Power BI. For starters, let's have a look at our sample report. In this report, we're looking at a large model, which is actually a Revit linked model, so multiple models federated together through Revit linked files. And for this model, we have, of course, a few slicers to select the items in the model based on category, family, and symbol. And also, we have attached to the objects, to some of the objects in this model, a status. The status tells us the level of maintenance. So they either do not require maintenance, they require maintenance, or a review may possibly be required. We also have status colors assigned to these statuses to give a further indication to the users. Now, the issue we have with this report is that the model is very large, and so it takes a while to load in, as I will show you by changing page and coming back. Now, at first, of course, all of the data is loaded, and then Vcad starts loading in the model. And because it's a large model, this can take a few seconds. What we would like to do is lower the time count to load in the model. So for starters, one of the first options we can look at is found in the options of our custom visual. We're going to go to the viewer options and down to the max selection count. Now, the max selection count allows us to cap the number of items that can be selected in the model to a certain number. By default, it's set to 90,000, which would include all of our items, and it means that all of our items are selected in the model. Now, let's try lowering the selection count and making sure that, for example, we have the hide not selected items, which will actually prevent the viewer from loading in the actual objects. So let's lower it to 60,000 items and see how the performance changes. Now, what we can do, this already gives us a bit of an idea. For a more drastic example, let's lower it all the way to 30,000, and let's switch page and go back. Now, when the model loads in, we'll see it loads in faster. However, we do not have control over which 30,000 items will be selected. So as you can see, we're completely missing the right building. This, however, can be very useful if we are expecting the user to make some selections. So if we know that we're going to be focusing, for example, let's have a look at the air terminals. And now we're well within our 30,000 items cap, and the model loads in way faster. So we're helping the user by loading initially the model partially and then having them make selections that make sense. And now, of course, we can actually have a look at our information. Let's maybe change the theme to the status color. Okay, so this is one of the possibilities to help. Another option would be to actually prevent the model from updating. So if we have a look at this, every time we make a selection, the model is actually being reloaded. And for a better example of why this can be an issue, let's reset that selection count over to the options, viewer options. Let's put this back to 90,000. Now, let's actually disable the hide not selected. So we're going to remove the default behavior when the viewer is first opened. So hide not selected default. And we're actually actively going to remove it now. Now what we can do is we can go back to page 1, switch back over. Now we have the clean situation. Of course, we have to remove all filters in order to have the effect. So now we're back at where we were at the beginning. So the model gets entirely loaded in, and we can see that every time we go and we make selections in the model, or more accurately, if we just start removing some items, So for example, we remove the tray fittings, cable trays, we can see that the entire model is being reloaded in every time. And if we know that we're expecting the user to go in and then go item by item, we don't want to be loading every time until they're actually ready to view the model. So to do that, what we can do is we actually have functionality directly within the viewer. So we have this Enable Sync Data to Viewer button. If we click this, the icon becomes red to signalize that the model will not be synced to the data. And so what we can do is we can, for example, say we're going to be having a look at air terminals, and then we also want to have a look at ducts and maybe electrical equipment. As you can see, the entirety of the report is updating, but we are preventing the model from being reloaded and synced with our selections. Let's add in one last example, mechanical equipment. Okay, so now we've made some selections. We could go on, but let's say we've made these selections. Now we're ready to view our model. So what we can do is at this point we can enable sync again, activate that, and focus in only on the items that we have actually selected. This allows us to make multiple selections to lower the amount of items to be loaded, and then apply all those filters to the model only once. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos on the new upcoming features of Vcad.